it is.
My first great memory of Gleaner was when I bought my first one in 1974.
I spent a lot of time growing up in the field working, doing tillage work, harvesting with my dad all day, every day during wheat harvest. And of course, you have to go back in time. That was an F Gleaner. We had no air conditioning, but I stuck it out, right?
First time you ever set eyes on a Gleaner, you could see it wasn't like other machines you knew. Everything about it seemed different. Cutting at speeds that showed real high-capacity combining with more grain saved in the bin than you ever thought was possible.
My history with Gleaner runs a long time. The first memory, Grandma took me to the harvest field and we pulled up alongside of the road and I saw this cloud of dust coming towards us. And suddenly the cloud of dust stops, and as it clears out, there's Grandpa sitting on his Gleaner combine. No cab, of course. There's quite a history behind Gleaner. 3 brothers started the company over here in Nickerson trying to develop something to make harvesting better, to make it easier, because it was a very difficult task at the time.
We've run a lot of acres over the years through these machines, and we've always had good help.
It's got to be Gleaner. That's because of the service and the dependability.
When it started, it was an attachment on a Fordson tractor. Everything has gotten bigger just to match that need from our customers.
The principles are still the same. The thing about the Gleaner is it started as a harvester 100 years ago, and it's still a harvester today, and that's all it's ever been. All right, so we're going to step in here and take a look. If you really want to learn about the history of Gleaner combines, you got to come down here where all the old documents are and start digging through them, because there's no specific place where they might be, so you just start looking in the midst of all the boxes and the file cabinets until we find something pretty interesting that tells the story. Looks like you're about ready to go here, so we can view some of these slides that we found.
Gleaner moved to Heston, Kansas in 2000. Over the past 100 years, I mean, there's a lot that has changed with it, of course. Everything has gotten bigger just to match that demand, that need from our customers. When we were looking through some of the documentation, the literature that we were looking for that 100-year celebration that we're having, it's interesting is that the message and the kind of the guiding principles of what Gleaner is the same today as it was 100 years ago. So we've got to be able to be as efficient as possible, at the same time producing high quality product for a world that needs to be fed. I think the Gleaner combine is perfect for that. Let's take a look at the first one we got here.
This is a shot of the model year 23 that's set at the Independence plant. So just north of the plant, they had this little pedestal set up, and that's where that combine was parked.
The Baldwin brothers grew up on the farm in Nickerson, Kansas. The 3 brothers, George, Ernest, and Curtis, built their Gleaner combine in 1923. They built 5 machines, sold 4, kept 1 for demonstrator.
Okay.
And I have accounted for what happened to all of them.
So this is the first fully contained self-propelled combine that you would buy as a whole unit, right? Included that operator platform there. You didn't have the tractor anymore.
And it was also leading into what was going to happen down the road here shortly.
Really?
But one of the things I read about on this one, this was the first machine that was actually built and sized to be able to go down the road legally.
Oh, really?
Well, there's been a lot of changes in the last 20 years. I'm 25 and I can remember, I mean, heck, everything's gotten a whole lot bigger even in the last 20 years. And talk about 100 years that the Gleaner's been around, things have really changed. Back when we first started, I don't remember anybody having GPS in their tractors or their combines or anything like that. It was all steer by hand and figure it out on your own. So the Gleaners are very reliable, they're simple to work on, all the parts are very affordable, you know, it's a lot of standard bearings and everything like that. So it's a machine for somebody who doesn't want to have to be calling the dealer every day if something goes wrong to work on it.
So here we're in 1960 Model C, and we keep getting bigger, more production, have more farmers trying to feed more people, so we have to meet their demands, right?
Yeah, some of the first 20-foot heads. So this really fit the custom harvesters too.
So here this has got to be a big step up in comfort. We got a cab here, fully enclosed, air conditioned, and again, it's like we've got a little bigger with this series.
This was really ahead of everybody else in the industry at that time. Things like electro-hydraulics, switches instead of pulling levers. It seems relatively simple in today's terms, but at that point,
It's a big jump.
it was a big deal.
I think the connection that the Gleaner customer base has with each other and the acceptance for people that come into Gleaner for the first time or come back to Gleaner after trying some other brands has been something that's been really fun for me to be a part of.
As you watch the progression of Gleaner, so it starts in 23 with guys looking at ways to get the harvesting done faster, more productivity. As we moved into this rotary technology, that was the driving force, things that farmers were needing to make that next jump. So again, you know, constantly changing and leading into the next.
And there's that grain sample. I mean, that's what everybody was looking for, and that's something that we kind of keep today.
Yeah.
Making sure it's that clean.
Again, that's one of those things that the whole time they were designing the machine from the very beginning, this was part of it, right? We got to have that clean end sample, and still today.
I began my work with Gleaner combines as a child with my dad, operation, and I was there with a machine to do whatever work they were paying my family to do for them. So I had to do a justifiable job. In between running for my father and working for Gleaner Combine, going off to college, in my high school years, I worked for the Allis-Chalmers dealer. And my primary job was to assemble machinery. And I was pulled back to engineering a lot or pulled into marketing quite a bit. So I was kind of a link in between, and I always use those customers as my sounding board. Hey, is this working in your conditions? Is that not working in your conditions? My customer use experience brought out what Allis-Chalmers, what they really wanted is the customer contact.
This particular one is an R61, which never made it to production, but it did make it as an R62. But these are some of the actual drawings that were put together in the early years. This is getting a little old too, but this talks about the inside facts from Curtis Baldwin. And here's a book that kind of, you can see it's been well used, well read. Got a picture of Curtis in there and tells the story about his machine. Now later this week, we're going to go out and visit and see one of those machines from one of our collectors that collects a lot of Gleaner stuff.
Well, I grew up, we pulled a 45 Gleaner that my grandfather bought new in 45, and then he traded it off, and my dad, he sees where he had written his name on the side of that combine in grease.
Oh my.
And realized it was our old 45, so he bought it. And when I was like, I don't know, 9 or 10, I built a toy Gleaner that I copied from that combine. I'll show you.
You still have that?
Oh yeah, it's out in the shed. That's the 23. The one I have is the only one left. It was sold to the Walkers out at Atwood, and Helen Walker told me that she was a little girl and she remembers two Baldwin brothers coming out to mount that combine on her dad's brand new tractor. And that had to be George and Ernest, because by this time Curtis had left her. They bickered and backered and
just like all families do
yes,
at some point, right?
Kurt left and came back to the company at least twice that I know of. He wanted to build a pull-type machine, and George and Ernest were dead set on this mounted on the Fordson. I think it was like back in 1980, Gleaner ran a contest wanting to know the oldest running Gleaner. And I said, well, hell, I know who that is. That's my friend Joe Sampson out at Atwood. And sure enough, Joe won with this combine. And Joe hit some hard times and had to sell. And I bought it from him with the understanding if I die first or I lose interest, he gets first chance to buy it back. And Over here on the other side is a Curtis rotary reaper. Curtis Baldwin built various forms of combine in Ottawa. We only know of 2 of these rotary reapers still in existence. This is a 27 Gleaner that we got out of a building in Jennings, Kansas.
Take care.
Come back and see me anytime.
I sure will. We'll see you later.
We've been on this place since 1970, so we've been here for 52 years. I've run Gleaner combines all my life, from 1970 on, just about. The Gleaner combine, I like the Gleaner combine. It's I guess my favorite of all of them. Like the newer ones, they do such a fine job on both corn and soybeans. As a farmer, I don't have any retirement. So I told my wife, I says, you know, I'm gonna fix up a car a year and a tractor a year, and when we retire, we'll sell them off as we need. It's gotten a little out of reason, and there's nothing you can do for it. The fun part about the whole thing is looking at the stuff, because it hasn't gotten to be a retirement plan anymore, but we sure have a lot of fun doing it. This is one of my favorite belt buckles. It's called Silver Streak, and that for the Gleaner combine, that is sort of a special one for me too. Here's a publication about the T Gleaner, which is the smallest combine that they ever built. You asked me earlier about ease of operation. I feel that Gleaner is probably one of the easiest combines to operate, and it's one of the cheaper combines to operate. And the ease of fixing is a lot easier than most combines on the market. These people were called cleaner gleaners. This bunch over here was stacking the stuff. They would go to the corners and pick up whatever was left over that these guys left in the field. They were peasants, they were poor. Anything they could do they would probably make some bread and stuff out of that. That's where Gleaner Combine got their name from.
I'm very proud to be a Gleaner owner. It's been in our family legacy for over 85 years. We travel for about 6 months out of the year with our custom harvesting business, but believe it or not, when we get back home, we want to go travel again and go have some time with the family to kind of kick back and relax and go travel a little bit, learn a little bit more about the states and everything. So it's crazy, we travel a lot, but that's kind of what our family likes to do. I really don't see me ever getting out of Gleaner. I've found personally that Gleaner works very, very well in the small grain market. So we're out here in a wheat field today. It's very forgiving on settings. It does a fantastic job thrashing, hardly any loss on the ground. The fuel economy out of these combines are tremendous. Honestly, I'm most excited for my family to carry on the Gleaner name. I've got 3 little girls. We're starting to get them to learn to operate the combine, and I'm kind of excited for maybe 2-3 years down the road when I can see my little girl starting to drive one for herself.
Langs have always had Gleaners. Several guys saw the need for the place, and there's 3 of us reopened it with some owners, and they were ag-minded, ag-based, tremendous group of individuals. Had it not been for that, I would not have been able to get my family or my sons involved in working here. They learned a work ethic. One is now engineering at AGCO for 20 years. This business is not built 8 to 5, and it's a way of life. So what do I do with my time? Good question.
I saw that sign up front on the brick ledge when I was in here
as a high school senior getting ready to go on a harvest, and they had a harvest clinic on C combines, and so I saw that on the ledge running, and somehow it stayed in this building. You go on YouTube and you can see how all these balers and stuff work on YouTube, but this is the YouTube way back in the 60s. The older you get, the more that stuff means, and it's kind of like Alan Jackson sings, the older I get. You know, that he has a way of writing songs that just resonate to the core of life. And if there was a fountain of youth like he sings, I wouldn't give you a dime for it. You know, happy to be alive, still living a life today.
We had tried out a Gleaner, demoed a Gleaner combine a couple years ago. Was very pleased with the way it operated, the efficiency, the quietness of the cab, and started looking at numbers, and at the end of the day decided it was the right direction for us to change brands and move back into Gleaner with our harvesting equipment. We are in the heartland of America here and feel so fortunate to be able to farm and live here. Another thing that we appreciate about Gleaner, you know, we farm here in central Kansas, and so it's meaningful to me to have this machine built by our neighbors here in Kansas, that the plant is just down the road from us, about 40 or 50 miles. It's a great place for our neighbors and for Kansans to work.
There's a lot of people that work here that either are out on the line, that are helping support machinery in the field, or they're just here to help the manufacturer, help AGCO. And that's one of the things that motivates me as far as working at AGCO too, is that there's a lot of people in my families that help support us too. Some of my lifelong friends work here in the plant as well. So there's always a connectivity. It's a big family. Gleaner's a big part of it because you mostly see the people that are around here and around the Heston area and around the Harvey County area. The majority of them have Gleaner combines.
I grew up right here in Irwin, Iowa. This is our new shop. We built this in 2000. We have 22 employees at the store in Irwin, 8 at the store in Pocahontas, and 3 at the store in Corning. So it's grown from a little mom and pop business to a pretty good sized Gleaner dealership. Farmers, they've got a lot on their mind, and that's what we're here for, to ease their mind, make sure that their combines run, make sure we're just a phone call away to keep their machinery running, answer their questions in their field settings. Gleaner has been a great platform from the first conception of the combine. They've been really simple, they're easy to set, and they're easy to maintain. Start out at customers and become friends. That's the nice part about agriculture and farming. It's a tight, close-knit community.
I had such a great experience with the dealers. I can't overlook that, the service and the salespeople for Gleaner Combine. I love the company. My experience with the customers, I mean, they were so kind, local customers, that I knew their families. I went to school with their own children. They were my classmates. But I'd get pulled out of school and to run some equipment when it was harvest season. You couldn't get by without it. Teachers let my parents know that I shouldn't be, but I did well in school, so they let me by with it. You would pull in there and they would realize what time you got there. Hey, you didn't eat. And I said, that's okay. And they'd make me stop and come in and eat. Then when I started working for Gleaner Combine, that tradition stayed with me.
To me, there's nothing finer than sitting in a combine cab when everything works and seeing that owner's grin when we're looking at 100 bushel an hour going up an elevator in wheat.
What's next? I think the future is bright for Gleaner, but I think the ability to change with the customer expectations is what's kept Gleaner so successful for 100 years now.
We can go out and compete with the best of them and do what they can.
A lot of the companies have come and gone, but AGCO's been a good dealer franchise for the Gleaner Combine.
The principles of a Gleaner are still present today as what they were 40 years ago.
Under the Massey Ferguson umbrella, the Gleaner epitomizes straightforward and dependable. We're always trying to do what's best for the farmer. Gleaner been made in Heston, Kansas for many years. Heston's the center of excellence for hay. Gleaner being built there is now the center of excellence for combines. So lots of times we always talk about the last 100 years, right? But we want to talk about the next 100 years. That's the most important. What's coming next for Gleaner? And we're going to continue research and development and making Gleaner even better than anything you've seen in the past. The Gleaner is not something that's dying. We're really pushing it forward. We want to show them what Gleaner is today, what Gleaner is going to be in the future. And we're going to start targeting, of course, that younger generation with the Gleaner.
To be able to bring this stuff back to life just the way it was when it was presented the first day is really remarkable.
It's good to know where you came from and the roots, and that as much as things change, sometimes they remain the same. But
Absolutely.
the goals are the same.
Absolutely.
Here's to another 100 years of farming, Gleaner.
Cheers to another 100 years, Gleaner.
Happy birthday, Gleaner.
Happy birthday, Gleaner.
Here's to another 100 years, Gleaner.
Cheers to another 100 years, Gleaner.
Cheers to another 100 years, Gleaner.
Happy 100th birthday, Gleaner.
Happy 100th birthday, Gleaner. Happy birthday, Gleaner. Happy birthday, Gleaner.
Happy birthday, Gleaner.
I'm super excited to wish Gleaner a happy 100th anniversary. It's a phenomenal product built by phenomenal people in Heston, Kansas, and I can't wait for the next 100 years.
Have a good future beyond 100 years as well.